I apologize for the slower pace of content recently, just haven't been feeling all that inspired, but one thing that does inspire me is seeing some beautiful Beastmen beating Cathayan boxing. Well, not strictly box build per se, but definitely a defensive build. Double Cygor is a great way to crack a defensive formation or catch a player off guard who is expecting more of a rush-oriented build here. This Cathayan player coming in heavy with Zhao Ming, and definitely an interesting choice. Can be good. Causes terror, obviously, in dragon form. Final transmutation also going to be nice, efficient damage output. And a relatively minimal kit beyond that. Some gold chevron peasant long spears, which is a great choice against Beastmen, actually. High defense, great leadership. You really need the armor against Beastmen. And anyway, all that much. Iron Hills is the one choice I'm not the biggest fan of on this kind of a confined map. They're going to struggle to have line of sight. Yes, they have ridiculous up-close burst damage, but we'll see. They might potentially have some line of sight issues here. So already the Cathayan player is being forced out of their defensive position, which is exactly why you bring the Cygors. Cathayan cannons aren't the most accurate in the world, and especially one is going to take quite a bit of time if it would even be able to kill both these Cygors at all, you know, with the amount of ammunition that it has, especially as they sort of stand towards the edge of its range. They'll be a lot harder of a target for it to hit, but yeah, rest of the the Cathayan army here, that's pretty much it. Just the Jade Warriors with some swords there. Malagor flapping about up in the sky here. This one from Highland Archer, he's coming in with some Ungor Spearman herds. Got some Ungor herds to back them up, and of course the two Cygors and two Minotaurs with great weapons. So very much sort of a horde, if you will, with a couple of elites. Malagor are going to kind of bypass here, just try and stay out of Zhao Ming's attention. Yeah, just keep out of his sight, basically. Zhao Ming's going to fly over here and probably attempt to terrify some units away. Launching an attack against either of these Cygors is going to be super risky. The Eye of Morslib has, of course, a hard snare. As its Regiment of Renown ability here, this Warp Gaze will be able to freeze Zhao in place, and then he'll get counterattacked by the Minotaurs, which is definitely not going to be what he wants. So just a quick hit and run here on some Ungor Raiders who got caught out of position there is a pretty nice play to then pull back through his own troops there. Try and just gain a local advantage against the Beastmen. But meanwhile, as this is happening, Malagor comes over, drops another Penumbral Pendulum there on these Jade Halberds and the Grand Cannon crew. A little bit of Flock of Doom as well, just doing whatever he can. I mean, with the amount of unit models that it has, the Cannon crew is not going to take a ton of damage from that, but every little bit certainly might help. Meanwhile, in the front line, we get a big pitched engagement. Missed the moment of charge, but it's spears charging into spears, so how exciting was it? Really hard to say. Certainly the Cygor shots landing in the back line are going to be quite exciting, and in general, you can see here the Iron Hails are managing to get some shots out, but they're having line of sight issues as well. They are able to kind of shoot up and over into the back line here. They won't be able to affect this melee engagement unless they kind of come up and around the flank, and the Cathayan player also just mismicroing a little bit in that they've kind of overblobbed somewhat their missile units. Can be tricky, but you definitely want to try and spread them out a little bit. I definitely would have taken a mix of the archers and the gunners here, but Cathay definitely certainly has a chance still. Lots of great leadership, and the same cannot be said of the Beastmen, certainly, as the Ungors start to rout from terror. Minotaurs with relatively low armor and melee defense, only 33 melee defense against the Peasant Long Spears with 31 melee attack, plus, of course, their bonus versus large of 17. Definitely going to be hitting those Minotaurs very hard, and it's a super inefficient engagement. I mean, we'll have to look. I think these Peasant Long Spears are probably about 550-ish points with the gold chevrons, I want to say. So like High Elf Spearmen, more or less. And yeah, they just massacre the Minotaurs completely, which is pretty brutal. Definitely needed those Minotaurs to try and kill Zhao. But the Cygors probably be able to get the job done. One more unit of Minotaurs was kept wisely in reserve here. Did not get over-deployed there in the center, although this unit manages to actually catch Zhao and punt him. Zhao's got to be careful. If he gets punted into the kind of Chaos Shrine pit here, he will die, and it is possible to do so. Ask me how I know. Just kidding, don't. Cannon's still firing, though, so the resources poured into it so far have not been able to silence it, but at the same time, I mean, it's getting value, certainly doing damage to the Eye of Morslave here, but tactically it's not actually all that useful. Probably it'd be better to try and shoot the Minotaurs, because you can actually kill off their unit models and start to affect their own killing power. But infantry-wise, the Ungol Raiders are going to do a great job of kiting some units out, and they'll fire very cost-effectively into the Peasant Long Spears. Certainly are fast enough at 40 speed. Yeah, no question they'll be able to get away from those Jade Warriors with good micro. But let's see. Cygor's also firing in wherever these sort of blobs of infantry form up. Let's take a look at the kill count so far. 127 kills, only 642 on value, 457 here. So not crazy amount of value just purely from shooting. They are going to have to harvest some in melee, but a few good shots landing there as these Minotaurs heavily overextend. Malagor's been able to stay mostly safe. Zhao really hasn't come to challenge him in the air. Not that he could catch Malagor, as long as, you know, Beastmen keep him flying fast. Highland Archers should be able to keep him alive, no problem. 121 speed in the air. It's one of the fastest units in the game. Certainly is quite safe. Also great vigor as well. Fresh, of course, as are most of the Beastmen units. The Cygors are getting pretty tired. It does take quite a bit of energy to yeet those massive rocks. Landing nice, too, smack dab right in the middle of these Cathayan anti-large infantry. So they're doing their best to try and stand and defend, but a lot of their other forces have just kind of got overextended and picked apart. You see here, Jade Warriors, like I said, overextending, get isolated. All of these units well away from any sort of harmony. Not going to be getting nearly as many buffs, and suddenly they don't trade nearly as efficiently with like these Ungor herds, for example. The Ungor Raiders will be able to turn and fire. Minotaurs, utilizing their armor piercing against those Jade Warriors, should be quite efficient. So suddenly, even though the balance of power still shows reasonably in favor of Cathay due to the fact that Zhao's still so healthy, things are looking fairly rough. There's enough Cygor ammo certainly to affect both of these Celestial Dragon Guard. I didn't realize, I thought these were just Jade Halberds in the back, but they are in fact the elite Celestial Dragon Guard, been kept in reserve up until now, hoping that they could somehow get to the Cygors or otherwise waste their ammo perhaps, but that's not going to be the case at this point. You're going to have to advance under fire and see if they can get into contact with enough models alive. Certainly, if Zhao were to pop a quick transform, I think it'd be very wise to try and get some tear routes on these Ungors and various other units. I don't see a lot of benefit to him staying in human form for the time being. I mean, you're not really getting much Harmony Amplifier at all on these units here. Maybe on these Jade Warriors. They go up to 35 melee attack and 50 melee defense. Yeah, on a rank 4 Jade Warrior. Pretty crazy, to be honest, their stats there. And of course the hidden extra little bit from formation attack. Still, I would argue it's just more useful to have Zhao's splash attack power and terror of him in dragon form rather than that Harmony Amplifier. But tough to say. Over here, these Jade Warriors and other units just getting completely swarmed and beaten down by Beastmen. Cygors utilizing the last of their ammunition to fire in, throwing those beautiful enchanted stones, and I guess hunks of amber in the case of the Eye of Morslib, right? That is technically what he's throwing. And the balance power finally starting to tell a little bit. Malagor chasing some routing units out in the distance there, has a Celestial Dragon Guard desperately trying to get into melee. Only one more rock here and 2 more rocks here on this Cygor, so both of them have used up pretty much all of their ammunition. Maybe can get a handful more model kills, but look at this. These Ungor Raiders kind of skittering across the ice there, try and get at a nice distance. Minotaurs also closing just in case Zhao decides to transform, but even still, I mean, high charge, high armor piercing damage certainly against an unbraced Celestial Dragon Guard should do quite a bit of damage and mostly finish this unit off. The other unit gets very rudely warp gazed, just frozen in place on the ice, cold as the snow. And a little bit of final transmutation. I probably would have waited until this other Cygor and Malagor get in here. You could probably get a hit on all of the high value units of the Beastmen here, then pop a quick transform. But even as it is, a one Celestial Dragon Guard is going to hold out. Actually, both hold out. Nope, just kidding. They both get terrified. How about that? As soon as Zhao transforms up into the air, they both get terrified by the Cygors, and that's going to be pretty much game. We'll soak up Nice animations of Zhao fighting it out with the big beasts. Definitely a bold choice to go with him. I do think Miao Ying is probably a better option since she can self-heal and fulfill that kind of terror role. I don't know. The Sentinel is a tricky one. It's pretty slow in this matchup, and although the Beastmen lack armor-piercing missiles, I think it's relatively vulnerable in melee as well. Like, I really don't know how well it trades against even Cygors, to be honest, but definitely against Minotaurs, stuff like that. So definitely an interesting matchup. I mean, certainly the map and sort of the build factored in here. I do think had Cathay had some better missiles and some better missile micro in terms of taking some mix of archers, maybe have a couple of Iron Hails just in case there, and spread them out a little bit. But let's see. It's not over yet. Cygor is just getting bullied a little bit mass-wise by Zhao, and he is certainly holding quite admirably, but just cannot face off against even just the two Cygors. Be a lot for him to deal with. Single entity-wise, they are more powerful than people give them credit for oftentimes, and certainly as a toolkit for the Beastmen, you should be using Cygors liberally across land battles. Can't really speak too much for domination. I can't see them synergizing super well with that playstyle, perhaps, but definitely in land battles against more defensive factions, certainly, if they're not prepared for it, you can just rip apart their formations, force them into a very uncomfortable situation. So Highland Archer doing a great job of doing that here. And yeah, he posted a screenshot of this replay, and I specifically requested that he send it to me because it's just a fun one. You know, I like to see Cathay get wrecked in land battles, and I like to see it at the hands of the Beastmen, certainly. Cygor is secretly one of my favorite units on secretly one of my favorite factions, and it's definitely a unit I love to use in a sort of similar fashion. Try and spread your opponent out, hit their high-value infantry, and force them into an uncomfortable situation. Beastmen, one of those factions that the more you can sort of get your opponent to fight off balance, the better it is. It's certainly part of their playstyle. And credit to Mr. Francis. I mean, I have some questions about his build construction here. I really like the gold chevron peasant long spears, though. I mean, a lot of them prove to be cost effective regardless. We'll take a look at their cost here also. I mean, Jade Warriors are also just super cost effective, so maybe mix in a few more of them. And again, mix in some archers rather than Iron Hails. The halberds ended up being a little bit of a fail, but I can see why you would bring them here. Even still, I think probably you just take some more cheaper infantry or maybe some light cavalry to help protect the cannons against potential Beastmen, you know, mobility. Obviously, Highland Archer here didn't take a lot of mobility in terms of like Centaurs and Hounds and things like that, but yeah, Zhao himself, solid enough choice. Miao Ying, I definitely think, would be better, but definitely would take a couple more heroes just to increase the magic, the mastery of the winds of magic, right? The Grand Cathay gets access to. So, yeah, Miao will just do a little bit of extra healing. Likewise, I mean, even in land battles, Talons of the Night is still one of the best AoE damage spells, so that combined with Earthblood makes Miao Ying have a very appetizing kit, to be honest. Appetizing, maybe not the right word per se, but yeah, Power of Yin probably cut against the Beastmen. You might think the speed debuff is nice, but the limited cast effect range, rather, makes it not ideal. Life Bloom, hang on to if you have it. You have the funds for it, but Arcane Conduit also, tough to say. In a long land battles, if you're expecting to have to grind it out, then yeah, you might want to hold off on that. You're gonna get all your winds of magic anyway. So yeah, like I said, about 550 points for the Peasant Longspear's gold chevron. It is quite potent when you factor in the formation attack, and especially if you're getting some extra harmony, which is another reason why you might want to take some heroes. They do give you a plus 25% harmony amplifier, so even if you're taking like an alchemist with absolutely nothing for only 300 points, gives you a little bit of leadership buff from Encourage and the extra harmony amplifier, so you can kind of spread that around your formation to get you know, more efficiency out of that. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.